Welcome back to Twin Terror. I'm David.
And I'm Gary.
Maybe we should shoot a different interest. Welcome back to Twin Terror. I'm David.
And I'm Gary.
Welcome back to another hilarity-filled episode of Twin Tarot. This is Chuckles the Clown with his twin brother Gary.
Yeah, so speaking of Chuckles and
I guess we'll stick with the standard intro.
Yeah, probably just as well. So Trump is just doing whatever he can to make this Epstein case go away. So there was an article on the Hill today. Basically, Trump said that the Justice Department has done its job on the Jeffrey Epstein case and called for an end to the push from bipartisan lawmakers for more disclosures related to the sex offender.
Seems perfectly reasonable. We've all seen the end of this movie. We know how it ends. We can all just leave now. Nothing to see here. Bye-bye.
Yeah, the president asserted that the DOJ has, quote, done its job. They have given everything requested of them. It's time to end the Democratic Epstein hoax and give the Republicans credit for the great, even legendary job they are doing. So that's part of his motivation is he wants to advertise all these wonderful things that the Republicans are doing, which frankly, it's a horror show of tragic events. Because the Epstein case is taking all the headlines away from him.
Sure.
And so he's very upset by that. And the other thing he was saying was about the Democrats is they knew everything there was to know about Epstein, but now, years after his death, they, out of nowhere, are seeming to show such love and heartfelt concern for his victims. Does anybody really believe that? He was also
quoted darn saying, do-nothing Democrats.
The confused and badly failing Democrat Party did nothing about Jeffrey Epstein while he was alive except befriend him, socialize with him, travel to his island, and take his money. It's like, so Trump, you did all of these things with Epstein. And, you know,
he was a Democrat back then, too.
He might have been.
That's how he knows.
And Dave and I were chatting off camera before we started recording. And, you know, Dave's point is a real valid one. It's like, well, if it's nothing but Democrats on the list of pedophiles and abusers, why wouldn't you want that list?
I know, it's pure gold. Here we go. Let's go get Bill Clinton and get him crucified. Don't you think the MAGA base would love nothing more than to vilify Bill Clinton, maybe drag Hillary down with them, grab Obama and Biden and George Soros and Chuck Schumer and Lord knows who else they're going to claim was on these things and just break them over the coals.
At that point, you know, MAGA would be so self-righteous and everyone would be so disgusted with the Democrats that the Republicans would get like a super majority in the House and the Senate, and then everything is going their way.
Yeah, and then if you're Trump, on top of that, you could say, I told you what happened on there. I knew there were Democrats on there. And, you know, become Lord God Savior. I helped you guys, and we teamed up and we got rid of these pedophiles. There's nothing we can't do if we do it together, including throwing away the Constitution and setting up a monarchy for King Trump the First.
Why would you not lean into that?
I would.
Unless maybe
that's not true.
There's a bunch of bullshit that you're feeding everyone.
If only we had the Spanish Inquisition here.
I wouldn't expect the Spanish Inquisition.
In fact, those who do suspect. Not really wishing for the Spanish Inquisition. That is yet another Monty Python reference.
Yes.
For the 5 fans out there that watch enough Python to get it.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I have to remember there actually was a Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
If you say the Spanish Inquisition, I'm immediately going to go into our chief weapon is fear. Fear and
surprise. And lovely red uniforms and almost fanatical devotion to the
Pope.
Get the rack.
So Trump is trying to get this whole Epstein investigation quashed and put away.
Yeah.
And so I think we can
just read on it about a dozen times already.
I know, but it just won't go. it just won't go away.
I personally won't let it go away. Oh, Trump is missing from the White House for 3 days. That's great. Release the Epstein files.
Yeah, exactly. There's no one to say no now. I mean, because Trump and Mike Johnson are really lobbying hard on Republicans in the House to basically accept Trump's placebo of, oh, the DOJ has released the information, make this thing go away.
Yeah, maybe MAGA will believe that we can just not release all this stuff.
Yeah, that everything that needs to be released has been released and now go away. There's nothing to see, move along. I guess Nancy Mace has decided that she needs to support her favorite president.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw an article the day that she stormed out. Most of them commented about how she left, but then there was one article that said she's still supporting Trump.
Yes.
I didn't read that article because it's like, well, we'll know soon enough when the votes come.
Yeah. It was basically she was doing the whole dear leader. Trump is the best president. He's the one that exposed all this. He's doing everything he can to fight for us. It's just like, she's just towing the party line, right? So I don't know what her vote is going to be on this. They only needed 2 more, but maybe they need 3 at this point.
Need 3 more without her, exactly.
So let's take a look at the whole Epstein evidence trove from the DOJ, and what can we learn about what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks with this for entertainment purposes only. Knight of Wands, actions are being taken and things are being moved forward. The challenge is the 7 of Cups. The smoke screens are out there. This is basically the DOJ going through and scrubbing names off of the list. Trump saying the DOJ's done everything that's been asked of them, which is probably true to an extent, but the expectation is they want everything released, and we just haven't. Michael Johnson has prevented us from asking for that. Don't believe everything that's being presented to you. Energy underneath it is the Empress. This, you have to take care of the women and the children that were victimized by this and are survivors of this. Jeez. Did you hear that?
He's going to try to jump out on the table after all.
That was the ice machine, very upset about what's happening to the women and children. In the past, you've got the 8 of Swords. The testimony of these victims was being ignored, was being railroaded. They were being, taken to court and sued probably for libel. Just basically very rich people tying this up and bankrupting these women, these people that were victims of this abuse and now survived the abuse. The current energy is the King of Pentacles. These are the rich people and the powerful people who do not want this to continue. They want this to go away. Overarching energy is the 3 of Wands, but everyone's waiting for that ship to come in. If you're the rich person that's on the list, you want Trump and his Congress to deliver that victory to make this thing go away. If you are a survivor of this, you want the truth to come in. I hope the Justice card shows up. Lesson to be learned is the 6 of Wands about victory. Both sides could claim victory. It really depends on what Congress can do. Congress will determine who the real victor is. If they could get those 6 Republicans to join with the Democrats, then the DOJ will be asked to release all of the information. Does that need to go to the Senate, or is that something Congress can just basically order the DOJ to do?
Apparently, that didn't work.
That didn't work.
No. Apparently, I literally just watched a TikTok on this one. This would get through the House, then it has to get passed in the Senate, and then Trump has to sign it.
Oh, God.
And if he vetoes it, then I think it's just the Senate that has to overcome a veto, or do both houses have to overcome?
I think it's both the House and the Senate need to override.
It's such a long time since I've seen a veto become overcome. But yeah, that's the first step, is getting the resolution passed.
All right. This stands a snowball's chance at this point. I guess at this point it's just getting the Republicans on record who want to support these survivors and who doesn't. The outcome is the Queen of Cups. So right now they're just trying to keep a lid on it. Keeping a lid on the information. Pam Bondi is trying to do whatever she can to keep a lid on things.
Now, sorry, I forgot to blow you up there. Before folks get too anxious about this, there's a reason why Trump ordered the DOJ, or the DOJ ordered agents to go through 1,000 agents to go through the tens of thousands of pages and redact Trump's name from all those pages, or categorize all the times that his name was on there. There's a reason why they did that, and that's because they recognize the inevitability that this document is going to make it out, and it's going to leave their control. So they had to see how big the problem was, then let the president know that his name's all over the place in here, and then at that point, Trump, sends the DOJ over to talk to Maxwell to get her to say that Trump's a nice guy and would never ever do any of this stuff. Put pressure on Congress to slow down its release. They expect it's going to be released. If they can get away with convincing the public that they don't need to release it, that's a win. But I think ultimately they realize everything they're doing now is just a delaying action.
Yeah,
trying to keep it from keep it delayed. And you basically have what's a huge percentage of the population of the U.S. wants this released. That's going to be a lot of pressure on a lot of politicians.
Yep.
Especially with elections coming up in the next 14 months or so.
Yep.
That, where were you on this? Where, promises. Do you want to be primaried by somebody who says they're going to release this? Do you want your opponent in the general election to say how you had an opportunity to do this and you chose not to do it?
Yep.
It's a poison pill, but they can only be relied on for so long. Now, the next question I have with this, there's a guy named Joseph Schnitt. He's a DOJ official that was caught in like a little honeypot trap by Veritas. Basically going on a date with a woman, where she secretly recorded him, and she brought up the whole Maxwell and the Epstein files. And this guy allegedly rendered what was his opinion as to what would happen with the documents if they were released by the DOJ. His opinion was that they would redact all the Republican names and just leave the Democrats on there, and that Maxwell being moved from Florida to Texas was part of basically a quid pro quo for her saying nice things about Trump and saying he's not in the report. Now, whether that and when asked about that, the DOJ said they talked with that guy, and he said those were his opinions. It had nothing to do with the actual case. Regardless, and it doesn't really matter at this point. He could be a liberal who's being realistic, because who did I just explain that? I explained it to an audience who probably were nodding their head the whole time going, yeah, it sounds exactly like something that they would do. Or he could be a Republican who's confessing what the liberals are already assuming is going to happen. So the only really fair thing you could do at this point is appoint a judge, a special counsel, or somebody, a group, a nonpartisan group, to go through the Epstein report and confirm the redactions are for keeping the victims private, and to not expose any ongoing investigations.
Yeah.
I believe they did this with the Mueller report, and then anything else can be left unredacted. And that would of course take a while. It'd probably take weeks to go through all that, because there are a lot of documents to go through before you could release that. But in the name of fairness, it's almost like it has to happen that way. So I want to read on will we have something like a judge, a special counsel, or some nonpartisan group be required to go through these documents prior to their release to the general public? So I'm going to assume that they do get released to the general public at some point. There's the Hierophant, there's the big organization, and temperance, taking your time, detoxifying things before opening day. Now, this could be a change in government, and maybe you have to wait till after the midterms before we see this, or after 2028 before we see this. But again, I do believe we're going to see this eventually come out. The temperance card is literally going to be the redactions and the removing or leveling the playing field before this seems prime time. In the past, the Knight of Wands, slow progress as we move through this. This will probably be held up again. Current situation is the Hanged Man. Now, this makes some sense. This is to prevent certain people from being thrown under the bus, but it's also putting a fresh set of eyes on it to get rid of any partisanship that the Hierophant might put on it. Overarching energy is the Queen of Wands. It would be like a female judge or a female prosecutor. There would be women and feminine energy driving this. The lesson to be learned is the Lover's card. This is kind of like, this is what our society wants. We don't want to vilify anybody. Eve gets vilified for eating the apple, but it was the serpent that was coming towards her and convincing that. Ultimately, at the end of the day, what we want the truth. We want the people that perpetrated things to be held accountable, and the ones who should be redacted.
And we want it now.
Outcome of the Swords. Yeah, there's an urgency to it, but it's also a bit of a crusade. The vibe I get is that it will happen, and maybe it won't happen right away, but I think once it's released, then people are going to want swift action. It may be one of those things where it's kind of a slow burn to get it, but once we get it, people's appetite for it will be voracious, and they will want justice. I mean, it's almost like a mob-like mentality. Let's wheel out the guillotine and start lopping off heads of people who got named in this thing.
Yeah, so I'm just thinking, when are we going to see this? We're going to see it when both parties start working together, and they feel there's no way around it anymore.
Yeah, it makes sense.
This is the only way forward. It's because I could take this one of two ways. We either have decided we are going to hold on to our values, or the person that's holding all the evidence finally isn't able to hold on to it any longer. And then the truth will come out. And then you reap what you sow, or there's a lot more out there that we need to review, and it will come to light. So when are we going to see it? When both sides start working together and they realize that there's no other way forward, and that the person that's preventing it has to face the truth. The truth comes out. The truth coming out.
I will tell you this, and here's one of the things I think is going to happen. If and when the survivors put together a list of names, that's when they start putting the screws to people.
Yep.
And it's kind of one of those things where that's pretty much when time is up. The survivors put together a list, and Marjorie Taylor Greene, through the debates clause, can go on the House floor and name off all the names, and she cannot be sued for that because that's part of the speeches and debates clause. You can do something like that, which is why she never got in trouble for the Hunter Biden stuff. She can go in there and name names, and it doesn't matter that it's not in a court of law. It's out there. And guess what? the public is going to be so eager for those names, they're not even going to question it. It's going to be, if Bob Smith is named in there, and Bob Smith is the CEO of high-tech company, a high-tech AI company, guess what? They're going after him. There's going to be people calling that high-tech AI company, demanding Smith's head, demanding he be fired, insisting that he be arrested, protests in front of his his place of work, his house, people following him. This guy's going to want to flee the country. And it's going to be like that for everybody named. So at that point, especially if you feel like your names shouldn't be on there, you're going to want that list released because you're going to want to protect yourself. Because then it's going to be not only Bob Smith, but Bob Smith's best friend, Chuck Jones. No offense to the Looney Tunes guy. If Bob Smith was there, he and Chuck Jones were inseparable. I wonder if that means Chuck Jones is implicated too. Chuck Jones, I assure you, is going to want to be, if he's innocent, he's going to want those files released. And if he happens to own a congressman, he's going to pressure that congressman. So there's going to be a shattering of the wealthy boys club here.
So Patty J was asking about this. She was saying, will those named in the Epstein files try to retaliate with lawsuits against the survivors, like defamations? And so I just threw a quick set on that. This is a path that they're going to try. This is good. This is something that is kind of like the beginning of their journey. They've been exposed, and it's time they got to do something. They're going to leverage their wealth and pay for their attorneys, and hopefully get the justice system in it, or basically this is kind of, they're going to use their wealth. But the other clarifiers, you got the Six of Swords. This case their defamation cases will take a while. It's gonna be a bumpy ride. But the Epstein case it's gonna move forward regardless. And it's there to protect the women and the children that were abused and survived this. I guess there's young men as well. So it's just, what is the Chariot? Chariot's the emperor. So, Gary the analyst, of course they'll try and sue. I guess it depends on how the list comes out.
If it goes through Congress and it's right on the floor of Congress, really, there's really no legal recourse. You could try, but they could say, hey, you know what? It's hearsay that Marjorie Taylor Greene's reading our thing. Go ahead and prove it.
Yeah.
Improve malicious intent. Well, you could say anything related to sex trafficking girls is malicious intent, but then it leads to discovery, right?
Right.
And you're going to have testimony of these women, and the Department of Justice is holding on to these files, so the evidence is there. It's already there, and you might be able, as part of a court case, they may not release it to the public, but I'll bet you it could be released for a court case.
Yeah, and what you got the emperor and the empress. The empress is the loving, motherly type, and the emperor is like, this is what you did. The non-emotional, this is what you did. It's kind of like the King of Swords, only more so. The truth of what you did is out there.
Yeah.
So
there's very little for these. This is why the women didn't release the names on the Capitol steps. Would have made for great news fodder, and the public would have been in an uproar and stuff like that, but they would have set themselves up for a huge legal battle.
Yep.
So the threat it's coming out is going to probably cause a lot of folks to move overseas to Vietnam or countries where they can't be extradited back to the U.S., especially if they find out it's imminent and they can't defend themselves.
Yeah.
Time to retire from the board and cash in my stock options and move to Dubai.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say that. That was the country I was picking too.
Yeah. Time to buy my penthouse suite in Dubai. All right. Anything else you want to read on that one?
No, that is it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching this video and supporting our channel. We do appreciate it.
Yeah, if you like these videos, subscribe and hit the bell. You'll get woken up at midnight with a new one. Leave a comment. I read them all, respond to many.
Yeah. And Gary likes to randomly shout out people's names to set himself for defamation lawsuits.
Before this channel, I used to go out on my front lawn and just shout out names at random and wave at people as they drove by looking at me.
And say, stay off my lawn, usually.
Yes. Well, I'm old enough now to do that. So let's give a card to Patty J for asking about the folks if they'll retaliate with lawsuits.
Don't let the stress get you down. Turn that frown upside down.
Oh.
Yep.
How about Carolyn Carlson? Hi, Carolyn.
Good Lord, I'm pulling all the crappy cards. I mean, great cards. Bring it. Win that lottery. Bring your turn your life upside down. Become a gazillionaire. It's worth it. Buy your own politicians.
And then Patricia Cunningham.
Oh, finally. Somebody who's waiting for her lottery ticket to come in.
Indeed, I am as well. And then we'll wrap it up with Janet Johnson, who just says, hi, guys. Good to see you together.
Well, that's a choice.
Yeah. And then a card for the rest of us right off the top. We got the strength card. Be strong. You don't have to manhandle the lion. The lion, you just got to open its mouth.
And say, ah.
Ah.
Ah. All right, everyone. Take care. We'll catch you on the next video.
Take care, Brooks. Bye.